Here, let me mute me. I'm sorry.
No.
Don't mute yourself.
Don't mute yourself.
That's the sound of Kevin stirring the pot.
We zip in, we pick them up, we zip right out again. We're not going to Moscow. It's Czechoslovakia. It's like going into Wisconsin.
Well, I got the shit kicked out of me in Wisconsin once. Forget it.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3.
Why, hello, and welcome to My Whiskey Den, your favorite public access whiskey review show where craft whiskey is king. And we are also a proud part of the Bar Cart Co-op, with other fantastic shows like Bourbon Turntable with Drew Crowley and our good friend Kevin Rose, who is actually hiding right behind that right now for this evening. Then we also have Distillers Talk with Christy Atkins and Alan Bishop, where they dig a little bit deeper into the nuts and bolts of distilling and grains and all the other fun stuff. And now we got other stuff. Alan's just start racking up shows now. He's going for a whole network. One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, which is actually very interesting if you're trying to get into it or trying to understand how the distilling process works. And also, if you have ghosts, you have everything. A very interested kind of spirits-based podcast, not necessarily about the drink, but about the actual apparitions. And oddly enough, was that from? What was that from? I just saw the
what?
The little
clip?
intro, the clip earlier.
Are you serious?
I wanted to
Stripes.
I wanted to hurt you.
Stripes. How dare you?
I was going to say, is that from Ghostbusters? Can I link it that way?
Well, it looks like you two are crossing streams up there, so.
Yeah. So
Yang and Ming, the Siamese twins from all those Saturday morning shows when I was a kid.
Well, before we go any further, Mike, I'm gonna let you kick off by letting everyone in the chat who's out there, and thank you for people in the chat being there. I'm gonna let you do your thing.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that bell notification to find out when new episodes are coming out, which are almost always on a Monday night and almost always live. Don't forget to, if you do comment, leave a comment down below if you're watching after the fact, or if you're watching live, please interact with the very nice people in the chat.
That is correct. And we have a very nice person right below us here, Mr. Kevin Rose, who is joining us today. Thank you for being on the show tonight. Kevin was one of the people that came on the little Wisconsin whiskey tour that we had a few weeks ago. My friend Matt is also one of the ones that came along with, and both of the Ewolds will be joining us later. They're already, I don't know if it's cocktail related. I know they have another engagement, but they will be here shortly. So I just want to say thank you, everyone, for stopping in tonight. Let's get, sorry, I got to make sure we got the
Adina's picking up one of her awards.
Probably is.
Yeah.
Could be any number of them. We got a couple things before we jump into the show. First off, before we go further, Kevin, I know it's a special night for you. It's kind of an anniversary. Last year, you lost your mother, and you're here with us tonight. So thank you for taking time out of a special day to spend it with us and everyone, and pass it on. And I just want to cheers to your mother this evening.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Ooh. And all right, now let's talk about an upcoming show real quick. This one's up Mike's alley. This is next Monday night.
It should be up everybody's alley.
Everyone's alley. John Prine night. We'll be having an evening. We'll be doing cocktails. Mike says he will be having hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
With mustard.
We're going to have hot dogs. We're going to have hot dogs for dinner. I'll have a hot dog on the show. I'll try not to make it gross. I'm going to make both versions of the Handsome Johnny because why not? Or maybe I'll make 4 where I don't use diet ginger ale just to see how sweet it is.
Sorry.
Because I'm no quitter. But yeah. It is John Prine's birthday. John Prine wrote a lot of songs that you have heard. Everybody has heard. And he was a damn fine American and a good individual and missed dearly.
Yep.
And it's a good excuse for a show. And it's a crossover with Kevin and Drew.
Yes.
They'll be joining us on the show as well.
I'll be back again next week unless you decide to uninvite me, which the way things are going lately, there's a really good chance that'll happen.
Well, let's just see how the show goes, Kevin. You gotta ride it out.
I don't know.
Shannon, good to see you. Good to see John, Emily. Nice to see everyone here.
Emily made it through the hurricane.
Yes, we're good. Glad to see you through there. While we're waiting for the E-Walls, I wanted our good friend Ed at Dog and Shrub, who was also at Rock Gut Review, that most of you would probably know him from. He got a chance to distill at Dog and Shrub, which is a place we stopped at. Let me see if I can find. There's one here. Oh, it's a little small picture. Sorry. But it is a small little place. But we have samples of their very first cask strength rye that we were going to sample. And I'm going to slide it over to Mike. Though all of us did have it here, the sample did not make it back in my barrel of bottles. It had a little incident on the way back. So we're going to let Mike do more of the live, but I'm also going to chip in, or we will chip in with things that we remember as well, too, because I do have a couple notes in my head.
Well, do you guys you want to put up that picture of the massive sampling you guys did there?
Yep, I gotta go down to this is yeah. That was our sampling. It was 8, 10, 10, 10. Pretty much everything they had.
Yes.
It was definitely a neat showing to be like, well, here's the variety of everything, where a lot of places will hold you back at 1 or 2, maybe even 3, and kind of call it where you have to branch out after that. That was see where you're at, and like with Ed, he wanted honest opinions about stuff, which was nice, where not everyone else always wants to hear that. So it's neat to have someone bring it in that way. Well, let's see here.
Oh, Mr. Krantz.
Mr. Krantz. Oh, yeah, I remember. Yeah, we dropped those off on the way back from the trip. Stopped at Naismith, and they
and he spent some time there.
Spent some time there with some Pete, with Sean, and he obviously got some samples around. And those 2 weren't even my 2 favorite ones, but they were some very good ones. But
they gave you the shit, John.
No, I did, but that was when we had like 5. We had like
we were
5
there
or
for
6
like an hour and a
hours.
half. I mean, it was a good time.
You got the spit cup. I've never do that to you, John. Okay, this is mostly blind to me because this is all I got. Gas strength. I know it's rye. We don't know the mash bill. Well, I don't know the mash bill, and I don't know the proof. I don't know if you guys do, and I don't know the age either.
Find out in a second, but I'm gonna put us on. Hold on here. You can keep going.
So I was nosing and tasting this thing right before the show, and because I didn't want to sit there and just do this, have you staring at me because it's really weird. But this is, I mean, on the nose, I would guess that it's a young rye, but I am also, I would say, a little not biased but informed because Wisconsin can do young rye, but this is not like this isn't like a normal Wisconsin rye that I've had on the nose. It's very doughy, very cereal. And there's like and like a very doughy chocolate pastry on the nose. And then there's a little bit of lemon and almond, and at the end there's like a mint gum. And it's very, I mean, it's a very interesting nose. It's very pleasant. It's not a, I would say on the nose, this is not a rye that Patrick would be afraid of, given his history with rye.
That's true.
Is that correct?
The Ewald just jumped in. I was going to say Mike is getting into the Dog and Shrub review real quick here of the sample he has of the cask strength rye. Well, I was going to say, no, it wasn't like the standard one, but on the first initial nose, like coming up to it, it had a very lofty, kind of aggressive, like grainy note, or it was a little bit younger. And after you came back like the second or third time, that really led up and you could start getting into some of the flavors. And I was getting Ed's note. So I don't know if you got into a chocolatey kind of a mint in there as well too.
Yes. And the thing is, for being, I know it's cask strength because it says it's cask strength on the label.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not nosing a cask strength rye whiskey, at least what I am expecting to nose on there.
Okay.
But I'll go back and I've got my tasting notes, but I'm going to taste it in because I'm going to see if I get the same things.
That's fair. He wanted us to guess kind of what the proof was and what the mash bill would have been from it. And I would have thought that there was either chocolate malt or caramel malt in it, maybe just from a little bit of the torquing it had.
Okay. So it's funny. So the second there's a couple of notes flip places on me from the palate. But because originally I got, like, right off the bat on the palate, I got like a chocolate, like a real puffy chocolate Long John. And then there was like a little bit of black pepper and like the Good and Plenty candies, you know, where it's like candied and then the licorice. And then the mint and white pepper. But now I'm getting, there's a lemon that was at the end that's kind of at the beginning that's jumping up on there. But again, not doing anything with the proof. I'm not tasting this and saying this is probably a cask strength rye. So, which makes me really wonder about the proof on this, either if they're doing a really like a very low entry proof, or if it's just, if it's going to be very sneaky. And also I'll admit I had preconceived notions on this, knowing Ed likes a rye, and Ed gets really excited about rye. And so I was expecting something much more aggressive, with some hair on it, so to speak. But the finish is interesting because it's long, a little bit long, but it's like it's very direct where it's mostly towards the front of the palate, and then it just fades out and gets a little fruity. But it's very interesting. And if I had to guess, I mean, I would have, before I tried it, I would have said, I bet you this is 100% rye. But the only well, I don't even know if it's 100%. I was thinking far north, but I don't think, well, no, that is 100% too.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not 100%, I mean, I would think that it's close. And I would assume that this is Wisconsin rye.
Could be.
But proof-wise, I mean, what I think it is, or what I think it is from the nose and palate, versus what I think it really is, there's probably 20% different. So I'm guessing it's probably really like at like 115, 120, 117 ish, but it tastes, drinks and noses below 100.
Fair enough.
Now, I didn't have 9 other things with it like you guys did.
We also had it at 8:30 in the morning.
To be fair, we did have it as breakfast. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
The chocolate made it a good breakfast whiskey, but so that was kind of it.
I was gonna say there was I was on the grainy note, either a little bit of mustiness in the grainy or to it a little bit that I remember, but I think that some of the other characteristics kind of held over the top of that and made it interesting. I know for a fact it was like 19 months. So I was going to say,
okay,
right. kind of in Ed's young rye area, but I was like, well, knowing Ed, I'm like, it could even be before we tasted it. I'm like, this could be 9 months. The way he might gamble on something if he was involved with it. I'm like, but
that's older than I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, well, hold on here. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed the whiskey. And if you didn't, I'm excited to learn how we can improve. Here are the particulars about the bottle. I'm really excited to see who gets closest to guessing the mash bill. The mash bill is 86% rye and 14% malted barley. So there was a little bit of that malted note. Would have gone with like a malted oaty note to it, but I didn't have it here. So 60% alcohol by volume. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah, I would have guessed 17 months on this one is what this one was. They must have had the one months. That was there at the distillery was 18. Number 2 char on 15 gallon barrels. So I was going to say entry proof was 118 on that one. So it was interesting because we've always enjoyed Ed on his channel, and I was going to say it was neat to see someone else who kind of had a path towards the distilling industry and what they did.
Who still talks to us.
that list is growing shorter every day.
Excuse me. Oh, right.
Is there anybody you don't want on your show that I can talk about for a while?
No, I think we're good. I think.
Okay, all right.
I think it's wide open, Kevin. That's
some of us have a gift for these things.
So, but yeah, it was interesting. I was gonna say I didn't have a whole lot of the list at their point at that distillery, but I was gonna say I remember there was a few notes that kind of ran through, like that little lemony thing. I thought was something that ran through a couple of the other of their distillates as well too. But
I do like it, and it's funny because calling it a young rye is interesting because I had young rye from Driftless Glenn, and it was aggressive and wonderful. Mm-hmm. And this is not. I mean, this is it's more refined than what I would have guessed from Ed saying, I really want you to try this rye. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that bad or anything like that. It's just I had an expectation on there, but especially for the aged stuff, it's pretty good. It's enjoyable. I would be really curious to see what happens with this over time or proof changes.
I mean, proof changes a bigger barrel to start would make a significant difference, even if time and stuff changed with it. But
I thought either less time in the small barrel or more time in a bigger barrel, because I thought the chocolate notes on it were fantastic, but it got a little oaky tannic for me, which kind of surprised me for something that I assumed was pretty young. But when you learn that it's 27 months in a 15-gallon barrel, okay, I get it. Mm-hmm. But I think it's got a lot of promise.
Yeah. That's one of those things where it's like neat to see something now and someone's like first foray into something and be like, okay, in your first, at bat, you did have some really nice notes in it. It looks like you're going to be headed in the right direction, Mm-hmm. Like that's especially out of a 15, that's kind of what you want to see. But well, thank you, Ewaltz. We want to welcome you in here.
Hello.
How are you guys doing this evening?
Just swell for a Monday night.
Jeez, everyone seems to be in this this run this evening. So, but that's okay. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna flash back to the trip we had a couple weeks ago when we're talking about it right now.
That was a great time.
It was a good trip.
So, I think it was Friday. Matt and I got to places a little bit early, so Matt fished, and I laid down in the sun and took a nap while we waited for Kevin, which was also absolutely fantastic. Now, I do not have the full complement of pictures because StreamYard limited me to 100, which is fantastic. It's another another good thing. But so the very first thing we started at, we ended up going to Driftless Glenn. We just mentioned that a minute ago, which is in Baraboo, Wisconsin, just down the road from the National
Circus World Museum.
Circus World Museum. I don't have a different name to it. They have a couple other things right in that area. So it's actually a neat little stop just outside of Devil's Lake. Another little tourist spot as well, too. We got here. We had a tour about 6 o'clock, so we got there a little early. Got something to eat. This is a little picture of their bar layout. Kevin went with, I think a lot of people went with old fashions when we were here. Is
Yes.
kind of what happened.
Yeah. When in Rome.
When in Rome, and
Yeah. It was my first Brandy Old-Fashioned, and in honor of that, I made a smoked Brandy Old-Fashioned tonight. So,
Nice.
Cheers.
So may I ask, is there other than brandy, is there a certain way that Wisconsinites make their old fashioned, or is it just an old fashioned recipe with brandy?
No, there is a special way, actually. The Wisconsin old fashioned, typically you get the orange slice and the cherry and you muddle them in the bottom of the glass. Then you put in the brandy, sugar cube with some Angostura on it, put the brandy in, and then you either have it sweet, sour, or I like it with just with seltzer mixed, and that's
so
your Wisconsin brandy old fashioned.
So brightened up. I like a little bit more of the cherry. Yeah, it's the cherry thing that kind of does it. I know you were getting excited.
Yeah,
man, I feel bad for Kevin because we took him to a lot of wonderful places, but I think out of everywhere we went, there was not an official Wisconsin old fashioned given. And I still think the pineapple at the supper club was creepy. I'm just going to say that right away. That was uncalled for and a bit unabashed, I guess, for lack of better terms.
Well, there was the old fashioned. The old fashioned at Driftless Glenn, I thought was really good. Now, I did not muddle the orange and the cherry in the bottom of mine, but I did use brandy, and I did use a smoker. Which, when we went to J. Henry, they had an old fashioned with that they smoked and used these bitters. Chipotle cocoa bitters, which I used those tonight too. So
nice,
going authentic. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of good flavors there.
Yeah.
But so when we were at Driftless Glen, I'm gonna say they have a really nice entry area with a gift shop where there's a little tasting room off to the side. They have I think I really like the restaurant and the food they have there. That kind of makes it, for me, a different stop, even if you have people in the party that may not be big into whiskey or even drinking. I think the food is well priced for what you're getting there. I've always been pretty happy with that. So kind of, like a lot of places, are incorporating other revenue streams into the distillery all in one stop. But I do like the restaurant there, and I think that is definitely worth stopping at if you were going there. Like I said, cocktails were good too. But we did get to go on our tour. I was going to say, and one or two of these might be a little out of order. This one was where they had the milling process. I was going to say out back with the grain. Inside. So it actually seemed like with the amount of tanks and stuff in a smaller area, it actually seemed like they had a lot of different stuff. Mash smelled really nice that day. These guys do brandy. They put out a brandy. They do a whiskey. Wheated whiskey, rye, which they're well known for, like Mike and I have said in the past. I think between the bourbon and the rye, I'm gonna say I think the rye has made them more noticeable, but I think both of those were pretty steady and kind of level quality over time. I was gonna say they haven't had stuff that kind of dropped off at any point. It's always kind of been going steadily a little bit up with things, and I've always enjoyed them. No, I was gonna say that's what I did. They did have. Oh, I don't have the other one. See, I lost one to the stupid 100 pictures. Their column part actually goes way up on the inside here, and shoots way up. The barrel room on this, they have. I don't want to call it. It's basically a large garage, kind of across the street. They have two there and some off premise that have some of the barrels, but at least they have some that you can walk through and kind of check out there. Overall, kind of as far as tours go, kind of a standard tour. They had just enough room with keeping that other, like the warehouse on site, to kind of bring you over there to show you some of the barrels and kind of bring that process into it to kind of open it up a bit more. Otherwise, I thought it might have been a little bit small, but I thought that helped kind of incorporate that. Sorry, I got a hot hand there. And at the end, they do give you like a little 5 sample tasting, and you can pick what you want as you're going through it, which is nice. They're only going to give you 4 samples, but they will give you options at gin. I don't know if did they give you a chance at the absinthe? I know they had brought it up to.
I don't think so.
Okay, then I was behind the bar. Okay, but they had a variety of things and let you pick the 4 out that you wanted, which was nice. As going through that, you might want 6 because there was a couple of them you might want to compare as you were going through and more of a tasting, but you could always go back to the bar, and I think it was $10 or $12 where you get a flight of 3. So pretty reasonably priced in that aspect to go have some afterwards. Sorry, I didn't mean to dominate that ramble, but that's what I do at the beginning of a show before I have another drink. And speaking of which, I'm going to start that right now.
You're tethered to another human being. Remember
I got it, though. I got it.
You're gonna tip
I got one in the bar, and I got something out.
Wait, that's not from Wisconsin.
I thought I was grabbing the brandy.
Did you want this one?
Sure, we'll take that one.
We have this one. We've got a wilderness rye. Or Driftless rye. Single barrel.
He's going to a different brandy right off the bat.
Yeah, right away.
But I'm not going to stop him. So what were some of other people's impressions about the distillery or the restaurant? What did you come away from just the first stop? Which, I'll be honest, I was just happy to see everybody at that point. Like the first part, I was pretty bummed up.
Yeah. First place on the trip, your first stop. The venue is really neat because, so the restaurant looks out over the Baraboo River that's rushing out over the back. Up on the bluffs is part of the circus stuff up on the hill on the other side of the river, and there's a brewery over there. Either side of the brewery, it's the old Circus World stuff, and it was the off-season home for Ringling Brothers, so all the circus stuff is around there. In fact, the Lion House was right next door to the distillery. Restaurant, there
is excellent.
Restaurant's excellent. So you can easily have dinner there. Check out the spirits.
They have some nice distillery only picks in the gift shop.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was something that they did have a nice selection on the back wall of things you could choose, and they did have some barrel picks that were there that you might not get other places. Just saying, John's was mentioning they had a driftless barrel pick. I don't remember. I didn't get that. I think I have that one downstairs. There might be a review of that one coming up at some point here soon. But I don't know. Sorry. I need one more drink here. I was pretty quiet the first half of the show.
No, it's a great facility. The bar was really nice. The bartender we had, she was real helpful. And
even we put her on the spot once or twice.
Sending us to bars that aren't open. Jeez.
Well, okay. But you'd ask her. I got to try some of the absinthe because I asked her about it, and she gave a little pour of it and gave a little pour of a couple other things while we were there at the bar. So that was nice, in addition to the tasting that you got at the end of the tour.
Mm-hmm. So I was going to say there just one small thing that happens on a lot of tours and a lot of places. If you're going through on a tour and someone mentions something that may not be quite accurate, I was going to say there's a lot of times where if you're very polite, you just wait and maybe discuss it at the end. And that happened at one or two stops that we've been at over the times. And you handle it professionally and you wait for the other person to see how they handle it. And most people are usually very gracious and just don't know as much. And that happens from time to time at places. And we just it shows how people react to it when you do it. And a lot of times it's just, you might not know about the bigger whiskey world at points because there are a bazillion distilleries. I know that sounds dumb, but they keep popping up. So there may be things you don't know. And the way you take information is usually a very important way. And most people do it graciously. And they did here with one small detail, but it would be, make a difference in describing it. So it was handled well. But and as like we were saying, for us, if you're going on it and you want to talk to someone, wait till after the tour and then discuss it then. Don't try to ever, showboat someone or put them down in the middle of the tour. But just discussing it in general usually helps everyone else's tour thereafter. There's been places I've been at that have adjusted things afterwards. After people have been there, just because they got a little bit deeper, they got a little bit more in depth, or got a more correct answer. But that helps the tour in general afterwards all the time when you're taking it afterwards. But
right.
Sorry,
I don't think there was any intent to deceive anyone.
No, not at all. No, that would be an entirely different thing. I was going to say, I think most tour guides today might not, especially when you're not getting, it's hard to get anyone in the first place. It might just not have a lot of background with a company or something most of the time.
But I would wager that anybody that's watching this show right now is in the chat, if they went on that tour and the comment was made, I'm pretty sure everybody would realize that's not accurate. I think Adina may have snapped her neck, looking over real quick. What did he say?
I think I still have the bruise in my rib cage. Where you at?
Man, being a distillery tour virgin to this with you guys, being the people I went with, that was one of my favorite moments of the whole damn trip. To hear four people just about choke on their drink as a guy's giving a tour, but not say a damn word to him was really impressive. And then, of course, I got all butthurt about the other thing at the end of that tour. But, that was something I didn't know until you guys kind of updated me on how the world of whiskey works. So
that's Brandy. But
nevertheless, the tour guy did a great job, really.
Yes, he did. He did a very good job. It was enjoyable.
One little shred of misinformation,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but like I was saying, he handled it. Handled it well, where other people, places might not do that or take a certain stance with it, and that's, I'm like, it shows grace, and we always want to say if you're doing that and communicating with people, you do it too. Like I believe we did in this situation. So just always out in the chat and to our whiskey brothers and sisters. So, oh, excuse me, didn't mean to cough at everyone. So that night got done, I was gonna say, and then I have no pictures from this, but we went to Hooker's Resort for dinner, and that was
an experience.
And
what's that name again?
Experience. Hooker's Resort.
It's just because the Thirsty Moose was closed.
Yeah, because the damn Thirsty Moose had the audacity to close for the weekend. Remy's Thirsty Moose was our destination originally.
Yes, it was, and that was it was locked up for the whole week and rented out. So, yeah. Well,
Thirsty Moose is not a better name.
No.
Sorry, folks.
Wisconsin, Mike.
Yes.
It is in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Sorry, folks. Restaurants closed. The Moose should have told you.
Food was okay. I'm gonna just because it's our show. Weird moment. Someone came up and some kid came up and tried to trade Dave.
Hey, Dave came out okay.
Huh?
Yeah, I came out okay on that night.
Some 15-year-old kid in the bar tries to trade Dave a quarter for something.
Something of value.
something of value. So we'll finish that story at the end. That's just
a long story.
That's a teaser for the end of the show. It's a teaser.
And yes, Wisconsin, you have 15-year-olds in the bar.
Yes, their parents were there.
Right.
There's there's special rules for us here. We don't. Yeah.
Well, they stopped hammering on the piano to do the trading, so that was a good thing. Otherwise, I was going to murder them.
And that would have been an interesting turn of the evening too.
Yes, that would have. Yeah. Picture a couple teenagers pounding on the piano.
It'd be like an episode of Fargo.
Oops.
Oh, you killed him? Oh, you betcha. You're going to jail.
At that point.
All right. So
Hey, I will say this. Speaking of you betcha, when I got really close to the house where we were staying, I stopped at a convenience store to pick up a bag of ice because you never know. And within the minute and a half I was in that store, I heard "you betcha" 3 times. So that was really cool. I felt like I'd arrived in Wisconsin at that point.
Pretty much everybody sounds like Pat.
Yeah. Did you hear anyone say "oop"?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'm sure I did several times.
Oh, excuse me, scooching right by you.
Every time at dinner, you heard that because the waitress, "Oh, excuse me," and, when she's reaching over you to hand somebody else a plate or a glass, or So anyway, sorry, Patrick.
There was
no, you're good.
We did get Kevin cheese curds at dinner.
Yes, I had cheese curds. Yes, I did.
They were subpar.
They were subpar for Wisconsin cheese curds.
Yeah.
We
They
helped
were
them out
curds.
on Sunday. We got
Yeah.
a little bit better cheese curds on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Way better. Yeah.
No, there were not cheese curds on sale at the register, but like we said, we did find him some.
That wasn't the gas station.
No. So next morning, we fueled up at Lucy's, who were it was really good breakfast food. It was a couple older people in the back and a bunch of like high school kids that were hauling ass. Because we were out of there lickety split like an hour and 20 minutes before the tour. So kudos to them. We thought we were going to be there a little bit. That didn't happen. So what do you do when you're an hour and a half early? You just go to the J. Henry's farm.
Mm-hmm.
You just show up early. You start taking pictures, you hanging out, and you start drinking on the porch. And who shows up but Joe Sr. shows up. Well, Joe Jr. did too, but he was in and out really quick. Sorry, there's a bottle going down by my feet. Hold on, I got it.
I think the comment was, hey, you guys, what are you doing here? We're drinking. We brought Jay Henry to drink, so I think it's all good at that point.
Yeah, when the person who was going to give us the tour and make us drinks off the bat showed up, and we were there first, she rolled up in the van and was like, "Hey, what are you doing here?
Can I help you?
Can I help?"
No, we don't need any help.
We're just here to drink. We brought our own. Okay, then she would put her day.
Oh, you betcha.
So,
Joe, it's okay. We hang out until you guys open. Oh yeah, it's all good.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say, and that's kind of where we at here. And Joe just started talking to us, and one thing led to another, and all of a sudden, we're starting to walk down the farm with Joe. He's taking us on the tour. We've circumvented the early drinks, but we're into a hands-on tour with Joe Sr. And I'll let some other people talk about this. I do have some other pictures. I enjoyed this because we were there during harvest season, and they have 17 different types of seed corn, and we got kind of a little more in depth, but I don't want to be dominating, so I'm going to let some other people talk here about the experience at least the tour part with Jaguar Joe.
As the ladies call him.
As the ladies would call him, yes. And it's true, the whole family's good looking. It's ridiculous.
And all the Henrys are truly awesome, just friendly, salt of the earth, great people.
Well, when we got there and Joe Jr.'s all in his, total like normal work attire for getting all the corn, getting harvested and drying it and getting it. You saw people who were actually at work at the job they were doing, not other people doing work at their place, which is I would say something we saw throughout the trip, which I'm always happy about, and is usually like a Wisconsin trait, that you're going to put in some work with what you're doing. Certainly.
Yeah, hearing Joe just talk about the seed corn operation, and that is just fascinating. And then he shows you the fields where the wheat and rye are grown also. They do buy their barley from Breeze, but the rest of it, they all grow right there on that farm.
Yeah, everything comes off of that, which is awesome. And I know you were excited about when they were saying they treat their corn the same way they treat their seed corn during harvest. So far less abrasive.
Well, yeah, I mean, coming from my background, I've got a family that's, into custom farming, harvesting, stuff like that. And to really see somebody, especially a Wisconsinite, go, listen, we want the best product in our whiskey. We want to control that process. I thought that in the part where they actually brought us a cob of corn right off the field from yesterday, of their own branding. We want to have our own corn. We want to have every single control of that. Some of the other little behind the scene things of what they're working on in the future was pretty cool. And obviously to meet Joe and Joe Jr. was awesome, and kind of get that extra, experience. I mean, each one of them offered for us to have their bartenders get working early, but instead we said, no, we've got our G. Henry on the porch. It's just fine. Like you said, they're down home guys, and actually to see them working on that product from start to finish, you don't see that. I mean, I don't care what the industry is, but I thought that really brought it home.
It's
just in the heart. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. It's certainly a sense of place. You think about the terroir. It's a sense of these guys are growing the stuff right there, right out the window from the tasting room and the rick houses, and it's that's where the stuff is coming from.
Well, and just aging in the old dairy barns.
Right.
Now, are they
and getting to see that one?
Are they distilling there yet, or are they making plans?
No.
Or are they still in contract?
No, they're contract distilling up at 45th parallel to their recipe. And
they bring the grains in their recipe, and it's just distilled up there.
Okay.
And they were still planning on keeping it that way. There was no like looking to change that in the future. But just when they were talking about just like trying to not be abrasive to the seed corn, where some of the other ones you'll harvest it and it's actually pulling the seed off the cob when it's doing it. This is all everything they're using is rubber, so it's trying to keep the kernel on the cob and as intact as possible. So when they do take it off for the seed, it's in its best form. So compared to other places, I think that's something that's different, where everyone's saying, "Hey, I'm using this grain, that's great." But here, just because the way they do it, anyways, why would I change and get a special equipment to do our fields any different? But just because of the way they're doing it, might be adding a little extra to it that you're not getting from other places, just because of that little bit of abrasion.
Right. And they started out using, I believe, a varietal that was developed by the University of Wisconsin.
Yep.
And they've developed their own varietal that they'll begin using going forward, right?
Right.
That is correct. Actually, right here, the number 39 is the red Wisconsin red that they got from the University of Wisconsin to be able to grow, and theirs is kind of their hybrid off of that, so that it's their legitimate own corn. So that's something that's actually once a seed corn farm, really neat to see someone stretching out in that direction. Now I do have, like I said, had limited shots, so one barrel room pick here. They had several. The barn itself is neat, which looks like this coming in, just a standard barn, but to change that into the first kind of rick house, their version of a rick house. I know you can't legally say that. People get wound up, I guess, about that. But just to convert it and use it properly for their space is neat, and how as they expand, because they are looking at putting in other barns or rick houses on the actual property. that original one will probably be where they'll be doing barrel picks or tasting or bringing you in, or that's where kind of the ones in the barrels in their final stages will be. So it's neat to see them not walk away from that and kind of bring that more into the fold. So I got a hot hand again. Let's see here. Another couple lucky barrels. They also are expanding into a little bottling line. And it looks pretty. I was going to say not all done, not a setup, but that thing looks neat. I was going to say, and it'll be able to move quickly, as quickly as like 1,200 bottles a day, but it'll be pretty sweet. It's going. The other thing we did there, and I'm really excited once we got done with the tour, because I can't say enough about how neat it was to spend time with them and kind of delve deeper. But when we walked back into the bar area, the tasting room, it was awesome, because I know maybe we even got in early from our tour before our tour was supposed to start. But they welcomed us when they were trying out different drinks. So we were kind of the guinea pigs on some of the cocktails that they were making. Adina, what was the one that you had? I know this was like halfway through, but I liked it too. What one did you have there?
I think it was like a pumpkin spice. And mine had the whipped cream on it, and they were trying to decide about should they do the whipped cream on it. And I think you got yours without. And
I think I added just a little.
Yeah.
I think we added some on the end.
Medium, somewhere in between. And then they had that wonderful smoked old fashioned.
Sorry, I had to put everyone on mute. There was a plane going over my house. So typically when you show up, they'll make you a cocktail first, and then you'll take the tour of the facilities. Mm-hmm. So you have something to drink along the way. We did a little backwards. We did that, and then we jumped into the back room and started tasting some of their spirits, which, if you haven't, is worth the stop. I was gonna say their standard 5-year, I've always thought was good. I was gonna say it was okay, and has worked its way into good for me. Mm-hmm. Anything above that, when you start putting like the cask strength or getting to the 7-year or any of the finishes, I'm all along for the ride at that point, and they're all a little bit different. So they're not standard. And when you typically bring Nancy Fraley in, they're married together pretty well, and theirs usually are when you have theirs. So I was going to say it's always neat to see that influence. Sorry, I didn't mean to ramble in that and dominate again. My apologies, everyone watching.
And really, one thing I've been noticing is Joe Z. Henry. He's been coming on really nicely as a blender. He's got a great palate, and under the careful watch of Nancy Fraley, I think Joe's learning the tricks of the trade, and some of the releases he's collaborated with Nancy on are just fantastic.
Their anniversary blends are outstanding. Mm-hmm. I really, really like those, and they're getting deeper and richer every year. And that's a neat thing. What I love about what Nancy's doing, when you can see she kind of picks she picks families. Mm-hmm. She doesn't necessarily always pick a person. She kind of picks families, where there's people who are established now, and then people who are looking to the future, and kind of this next step that's going on. So when she's teaching them, it really, you feel like you're in the middle of seeing knowledge getting passed down generation to generation. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you see what I'm snickering with, you just watch the chat. It's on the chat.
I think Mike's had too much to drink.
Might be. He's awfully quiet over there, but
I wasn't there, so I just get.
I know. I know. I still feel terrible with that.
The big Kahuna was with us in spirit, anyway.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Next time.
I definitely hope so.
Yeah.
So other than I was was gonna say the corn. What was what was your plus or the big takeaway you had, or something there that you had in the tasting what was your favorite? I was gonna say, and I can go. I mean, we'll start with Kevin. What was something that kind of stood out to you from J. Henry?
In terms of the tasting of the different whiskeys, I thought they all were very, very good. I ended up with a bottle of the Bellefontaine. I thought it was really nice. But the takeaway is the family, really. The legacy of the grain production, and then deciding to start making whiskey, and then how the family has evolved into that part of the business, whether it is simply on the distiller side of it or on the corn production side of it. It's a very great story.
I just wish Liz could have been there for that, because she would have definitely brightened up the day even more.
She's a fun lady.
Yeah, she is.
When licorices were using Marcia as the mother of Texas whiskey, I was like, Liz, give a little one of these two in the pictures. You give me the mother of Wisconsin whiskey. Give a little flex back. You guys are friends. I think you can handle it.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that, as part of their story, I think so they decided to make this whiskey, and, they made a whole bunch of barrels, and they put it up in the dairy barn and started aging it. And 5 years goes on, and they're sitting on all these barrels of whiskey. And then, Joe Senior says, well, it's ready. I guess we ought to figure out how to sell this. and they're bringing distributors in from Wisconsin. They're trying to get distributors interested in distributing their stuff. And one of the distributors says, you have how many barrels? How old is it? Are you kidding? We'll be out. And so the distributor shows up, starts tasting through, and is just in shock that here they're sitting on all this 5+ year old bourbon that's fantastic and ready to sell. And just,
if you haven't heard anything about it, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, I have a few hundred, you're like, no, you don't. I think that's what it is. Someone had to go out to verify.
The world's most patient distillery owner, basically,
right
there.
Sold nothing for 5 years.
5 years, sat on all that inventory.
Oh, and I was gonna say, and that's a unique move where everyone else is gonna try to supplement, but just in general to even just wait 5 years. Mm-hmm. Just because I'm gonna be honest, that's where I think with bourbon is where you see Wisconsin whiskey start to take a little twist up a notch, is once you get to the 5-6 year range for most of the distilleries, where other places obviously you can get there a little bit quicker. But I think in Wisconsin, it's at least kind of that 5-6 year where all of a sudden it's like you lose maybe a little bit of a sharper a barrel note at points where they really start to kind of wear off, and it gets a little more rounded at that point. But yeah, props to anyone who can just sit there and hold on and be like, here's the business plan. We're going to wait till it's good.
Damn.
That sounds like the most craft statement ever. And just to pull it off is pretty sweet. No, we're going to wait till it's good. We're going to hold out.
I think they had the luxury of not having invested millions of dollars in stills and fermenters and things like that. So they had money tied up in obviously the barrels and, the raw material and, paying the distiller, the contract guy. And, so they came at it kind of differently than some other folks, really.
And that's, you don't see the stills there, but you do have everything. You have everything else there.
Right.
And like you said, I think it was done right for them. I don't know if putting a still and everything out on the farm, it might detract from everything else going on and make it a little more touristy attraction-y, where I think it just kind of would lose that kind of homey feel. Hell, it's in Joe Senior's old home. That's
right.
that was his house he grew up in. Is where all the tours and everything take place. So
We even had the ghost story too.
Ghost story. Yeah.
ghost stories.
Yeah, grandma
There's a ghost.
roaming around the house there.
Yeah, and apparently, if you're a thief, she really doesn't like you.
Yeah.
She really takes it out on you if you're not a good person. So, well, we got done with J. Henry, and then we slid back over to a little slow for coming up there to Bowlersheim Winery and Distillery. This is the distillery side. They do have another side we're going to show you on the left that is the winery and kind of food restaurant area. This is one of the places where we did not get a tour. Tom was not available. He did try very, very hard, just did not work into our schedules. But I was going to say, it has a really neat feel to it. All the way around, it does, I think, leans a little more towards a vineyard feel, but that's what it was for probably like 25 years before they started distilling, or at least 20. But this was an old oak tree that they were known for up front that blew over in a storm, and now they have it kind of as this cool little archway that you actually have to kind of cut under to get to. So give me a second here. There's one or two pictures out of order. Just a really nice area in general. You come around the corner on the backside. In here is where they have their shopping center. They also have a restaurant. Once you're done, you go up onto the hills where they grow some of the wine. It is fenced off. If you get too close, there are a couple people that really warn you that it's electric fences. Like you were going to walk into it just to shock yourself. But don't worry, people there will let you know that you're getting too close.
Kevin and I behaved here. We were not off limits here.
Right. This was on the proper side of the electric fence.
Right.
Yes. Not on the wrong side. But all in all, just a really, really nice venue. If you were going to go spend the day or have something to eat out here, I can easily see how you could take a tour, take a tasting of either side, get some food, walk yourself back up to where they have music and a place to sit down. And used to be you could bring your own lunch and food, but that has since changed since they can provide it for you. But just a really neat concept all the way through. Didn't delve too much into the wine, but up at the top where they have the wine cellars, they have a little fake door you pop in, and they have a nice setup of like an old winery in the cave. Just as like a little museum with things set up. But inside, we jumped, like I said, it's going to be quick. We didn't take a tour. We jumped right in and drinking. But we did take a look on the inside where they did have a couple stills for what they do. Now, when we were here, what I really liked about what Tom is doing is they come from more of a wine and brandy background. Oh, sorry, I didn't have it up there. A wine and brandy background. So I usually, when they put out their bourbon, I feel a lot of that influence in their bourbon, especially kind of some of the fruity flavors and stuff. So there they'll have the bourbon. They have a rye. They had a 2-year-old rye that just won, I think, double gold at San Francisco. They had their American brandy, and they had their Cocard brandy. The American brandy is bottled in bond. They take the brandy and they finish in new oak barrels rather than used oak. So these guys are doing a bunch of. I really like it. I think they're doing something different, and it's a place you don't hear about. But I liked it, and I liked our group's reaction to the spirits there because they were not all the same.
They were all over the place.
It was, or yours
like
were
everything.
Well, no, because they had that. What was it? The 2 mile rye, was it?
Yeah.
Where it's everything sourced within 2 miles of the actual farm and distillery and everything else. And you talk about keeping it local. I mean, who else can say that about every part of that product? I mean, that one threw me for a loop. I liked that one quite a bit, and the Cocard brandy was absolutely amazing.
I do. Oh, go ahead, Kevin. Sorry, I'm going
To go back to the point of the people that that are higher ups at the place are actually working at the place. We saw the owner of the property sweeping off the loading dock. And then we saw the master distiller bussing tables.
Mhm.
So these guys are working it.
I chased down Philippe Cocard to ask him a question about something since Tom wasn't around. So, and he happily stopped and answered my question. And
he stopped sweeping the floor.
Yeah, stopped sweeping, and yeah.
Well, no,
another family operation. Everybody, all hands on deck.
But that's I was gonna say those are the types of people that you want to work for because they're doing what needs to be done too. Like there's what 10, 15 people running around on the sales floor talking to different people, and here's Sleep going, man, it's dirty over here.
Right.
Got to get this done. Or like Tom, like we said,
busting tables because he got back from the kids tournament. I mean,
we didn't see him till the very, very end. And I was like, nope, your day was already it. You're closing now. But yeah, you're taking the time to help everyone that's there rather than being bigger than what's going on. You're like a part of the building blocks of what it is. And you're not forgetting that.
Right.
I love that part of it.
The youngest son was running the French bistro, by the way. He's the chef.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Should I switch back over? Yeah. I, for one, so as far as the brandies went, I was going to say they had their own house press. But then, like I said, it seemed to be between the Cocard and the American. Which one did each of you lean towards?
Well,
I
for
mean,
cocktails, we use the both of the brandies
Yeah.
a bit.
I'll use the regular the press house for like a old fashioned or something, but the Cocard will take the place of cognac in anything.
Right. Yep. And then this one was a first with me. This was the American brandy, which is your bourbon drinkers brandy, since barrel aged.
Yep.
Good stuff.
No, I like the American brandy, the bottled and bond brandy.
Yeah,
that's what I used to make my old fashioned tonight.
I want to go.
See, as for me, man, that came on hot. But like bourbon is brandy's my number one, so that was a different take for me. So I like the press a lot better there. But I mean, I can see where it's got its place. But that one was not for me. And I know you guys all love that one, but that one did not do it for me on that particular tasting. So.
Being there,
And that's just
styles, it's great,
Well, yeah. I mean, like the other two are beautiful. I mean, the press I could drink all the time. The Cocard was that, like you said, the nice cognac, extra fruity finish. But man, that American stuff, man, that came on hot and fast, and that was like you guys in those high rise, man. I was okay with some of those.
Give me the hazmat. I want the hat.
Yeah, it was pretty close, man. Yeah, it was a little spicy on the front end. So.
But that's why I like having people, just different flavors and different palates because, everyone has that little bit different thing. And sometimes when someone else tastes that, you might pick up on it or you can recognize it. And I just, because I know you do it in general, have a sweeter palate than I do. So it was neat to see that kind of continue to come through. It seems weird, but it's like continue to see someone's palate evolve and stay down that path. So, and I did get a bottle of the bottled and bond, and that we'll be tasting that brandy month. That'll be something that the folks at home might get a chance to taste along with some of the other brandies that there'll be a giveaway. There'll be a giveaway of the samples along with some of the guests on the show and other people coming on. But that one is definitely sticking around. I just like how rich it is. Like you said, that cognac flavor is just it. I love it. It's deep. It's rich. It's got those extra flavors. It's even got some high notes. I think it's just a great place to stop along the way. It's a little more of a day trip because it's not in the city. It's not really far from anything. Let's be honest. We weren't more than 20, 30 minutes from most of the stops we were at so far right now. But it is a fun stop, and I'd count it for hours, not just a stop and a tour. I mean, if you're I'd plan it as having a lunch there. take the time outside and relax for a little bit. It's just a nice environment.
And I would even say in the winter, it's a wonderful stop. You can often just look up and see the eagles flying overhead from the Wisconsin River. That's right behind the hills. And
yeah, I was gonna say it's just a great venue. And it does kind of, I think it just leans it back to a little more. I don't know. It's a vineyard kind of French. I haven't been to California vineyards, so I was more of a beach person when I went to California. So I didn't go up there. I didn't have the excitement, so I can't correlate it. So it has this like French feel to me. But so after that, we took Kevin to a supper club where Matt was upset about the pineapple.
That was weird, man.
And I agree, it was a little weird in the old fashioned. But other than that, I was pretty happy. It's a step up from what we had the night before.
Well,
Just
okay.
Just a couple.
just a little bit.
So after that, we went back, had a few drinks back at the house, and then we started off the next morning it was more noon, by working our way over to Dancing Goat, where we did get there a little bit early again. That's okay. That's what we kind of do. But it gives you a chance to kind of settle in, and if you're going to take pictures or video of a place, it gives you free range. Just make sure they know you're doing it. Sorry, that'll be a big thing afterwards if they didn't. Now, that's okay. We may have lost Mike, and that is fair. But so once we got here, we were lucky enough to get greeted by Mr. Fred Swanson, who is their national brand ambassador, who took us on a tour of the distillery. But not before we took a look around. I was going to say the entryway is very open, very high ceilings, big bar around the middle of it. Wrong way. I was going to say in your entry, you see this nice little barrel stave wall, and that's where you can purchase your products. They do, starting now, they do have all of their standards, but they do have special releases every weekend that might be a finished one or something different that they're doing. So pretty much anytime you stop there, they're going to have something unique. So that in and of itself is another reason to go. Now, if you've never been here, these are the guys that do limousine rye, where they take 95.5 MGP, and then they finish it in limousine oak barrels in a Solaris system. We'll bring that up later. But I was going to say that's the 6-year cast strength. Now, all the cast strengths will be a little different variant, and it does come from what's the Solaris system. So each one will have a little different flavor profile too. But one of the things we liked about it, like with Buzzard's Roost, something that Kevin likes, you take MGP and you do something to it. Don't just hand me MGP again and tell me, yay, it's exciting because it's MGP. Not that there's anything wrong with MGP. Like the last cast I was on, I don't want to be in trouble with that. But it's...
If you never want MGP on your show, I could help with that too, probably. So
we've had them on already. So but it's not MGP anymore, so I have to change the name.
Yeah, but Mama called him MGP. I'm gonna call him MGP.
Giant distillery in Indiana.
Giant distillery in Indiana. Oh, shoot, I don't have one. All right, stupid. I lost the one picture of the Ewods in front of all of the distillate here because of StreamYard's photo capacity. But they had a whole slew of things. We poured a sample before we started the tour. I started with their Summer Shine, where they took Leinenkugel Summer Shanty and distilled moonshine out of it. Pulled some of the familiar flavors you would think out of it. Kind of interesting on that. what did everyone else get for the tour itself? Anyone else remember what you had for it?
I think I started with the summer shine as well, Pat.
Yeah, I started with the summer shine too. That was delicious.
Yeah, I had that also, but I think I had something else when we actually started the tour. That was kind of a pre-tour pour.
Right.
And then there was a tour pour. Then there was a post-tour pour.
Yeah.
And there was a post-tour pour as well, if I remember.
I definitely had a rye on the walk around.
I think I had a brandy.
You might have had the brandy, yeah.
Yeah, well, so there was, a few different things we may have tried on the tour. But Fred was fantastic. We got there, let us in, got to try a few things. We got in there, a couple pictures, a little out of order just because I wanted to show the grain. Huge big bags. And like they said, like we discussed, you do have to worry about critters. No matter where you are or what state, keeping critters out of your grain is a big deal, no matter where it is. So just to kind of see these kind of pre-done, ready to go, everything kind of set up. I think other people will test this. As I'm showing pictures, it was a very thought-out distillery before it was built.
Amazingly thought-out distillery from an engineering perspective. Amazing.
Yeah.
The thing that strikes you as you walk through, there's random column still parts everywhere. Like all the super stacks that you just showed, there's like column still parts up on the rack.
Well, that's for this one, and this one's for that one, and Nick just picked that one up yesterday. Yeah. That's why it's in the.
But it was
said one time he says, you guys go to yard sales and antique sales. I go buy defunct distilleries.
Right. But everything was in its place.
Yeah.
Everything.
There was nothing just lying around.
No clutter.
That people had forgotten about.
Right.
It was, as distilleries go, it was a remarkable manufacturing operation.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was going to say
with room to grow.
Yep. I was going to say this. I think that's the one they're using now for part of it. This is in their R&D side of things. These stills, this one's still used. They do have some bigger ones. This one's the little first one that started it, but now it's like an R&D still and a blue brandy still. But the way they have it set up, so with production wise, they have holes in the walls for doors so you can go through from one side to the other. But they thought out what tubes were going through where. So if you're coming through one side and you're trying to do some on the other side, everything is all set up for ease and automation to be the biggest distillery in Wisconsin, which is what it set out to be from the very beginning. And it is now. This was the blue corn that they're doing in their bourbon, which being laid down now, but I can't wait to see then. Just kind of the whole it was amazingly clean. Fred mentioned that too. That it, someone can always be cleaning. You can always be doing something like that, and it shows. Like everywhere here is damn near spotless. Now, I guarantee they didn't do that because we were coming in.
Nah,
No.
And you really don't see any hoses around anywhere. It's all pretty much hard piped. Carefully. Not a lot of hoses and clutter. Very clean.
Mm-hmm. Very, very, very clean. So the whole setup and room for expansion, that was another thing that they had. Things were laid out in a certain way, but then they was like, okay, but now all we have to do if we want to expand is flop three more tanks in here, and they go right in, and we're good to go, and we could roll. So I was always a fan when they first started out because I liked the ambition right off the bat, hearing about it, like, we're small, our goal is to be the biggest one in Wisconsin and to kind of take on some of the other distilleries in some other states, to actually be a player in the game. So that's a big statement. And to have someone actually have goals and plans to go that far out, because a lot of people in the distilling world, and let's just face it, in business in general, are happy if they can get past that 5-year mark where they didn't get their ass beat. That's like plant the flag for a lot of people. Is I made it to 5 years. I made it past that point where I started turning it. But to have a 20-year and a 50-year plan, and as you achieve your goals, you're constantly setting them forward. That's what they're doing. And I've always liked people who are like that. And especially when they switched over to doing their own brandy as well. I mean, you're in Wisconsin, the brandy state, and why not try to take a piece of the market? And they might not say it that way, but I have. Why not take, if you can cut the legs out from Korbel and take 10% of what they're selling here, that's a big chunk. I mean, seriously, when a company survives on 2/3 of its sales from us,
right? Or more importantly, myself and my family probably, but big bottle. But no, I think the other thing that was really cool about Fred and that experience was, how many times he told us they've moved stuff around in there. But again, every time they moved it, they knew they could do it. There was no question to it. And then they also want to use it as that teaching facility that he talked about however many times. I mean, that was really darn impressive. Where else can you think I want to get into this? And they're like, okay, hold on, pipsqueak. And then kind of walk you through it at the same time. I mean, Fred was very thorough in that part of it.
I think Fred's going to call him pipsqueak, but that's okay.
We're about the same size. But no, like I said, it was very hands-on, and you could tell, again, just like every place else we visited, the pride that he has in that place and everything they do.
Yes. Well,
and it was everything was very intentional. If you saw the barrels that they had setting out that they were preparing to dump, that wouldn't be those, but
sorry,
the ones that they had forums on the top of them where they're showing exactly how much water they added to that barrel on what day as they're getting it to the proper proof point over a period of time.
Like that attention to detail.
Right.
But like Matt said, the other point they want to be is more of an education facility for maybe people who can't make it all the way to Kentucky or just in general in the area. So what they've done is they built a gin lab upstairs in part of the distillery. You have to go through it, and you take a look, turn right through the doors, and all of a sudden there are, I believe, 16 stations of little mini stills like we're taking a look at here, where you get to have a discussion about distilling, learn how to distill, and actually distill your own gin on this still as part of a class for the day. And they do have a whole closet full of herbs to use. So it's not just a couple like we're seeing here. They do have quite a few. So as far as an extra step, as far as a distilling stop, this is something really neat. And I know gin is not everyone's thing because it wasn't ours, but being able to play with a distillate and kind of craft it towards what you want, and even just even if it's not gin, seeing if you can make what you want out of it, it's a great class. Just to be in that room, I feel like you're in a little bit of maybe like UW education system. Like, here, we're learning distilling today. Welcome to the class. And hell, I'd be happy to learn.
Yeah, it's pretty unique. There's not many places in the world that you can go distill your own gin, pick your ingredients, and walk away with the bottle you just distilled.
We will be doing that soon, and we'll give you an update.
Yeah, we'll give you an update very soon.
Well, doesn't surprise me at all,
And if you do want to get on one of those, obviously just hop on to dancinggoat.com. They have tours on the weekends now, and also those classes that we mentioned. If you're just taking a class, it's fantastic to twirl the whole thing into one day there. they're really doing some unique stuff. And besides the gin class, sorry, I don't want to keep everyone on all night, but I got to tell you, they built Wisconsin's very first rick house, open air rick house, just like you see in Kentucky. No fire suppression system. Boy, was that a hassle. Because they did not understand that really, if you're not here in 15 minutes, it is not going to matter. Fred has a good way of putting it here. Coolest UW Science Lab crossed with Willy Wonka's factory.
Indeed.
Not wrong.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah, pretty much.
So this is something that has not been done in Wisconsin or in a lot of other states, to be honest. This is not the only one that Dancing Goat will have. This is the smallest one. They are planning on doing 5 other ones that are significantly bigger than this one. But as far as the first one goes, a couple small things. Kudos to Wisconsin builders. You want to know why? Because apparently we build foundations really, really well, unlike people in other states that have issues with building concrete foundations. So I know that these guys were teased away from the job to maybe go have jobs in Kentucky after doing the foundation here and doing some of the other work. So I'm going to give a little cheers to Wisconsin workers. They said that they were dropping beams into that rick house one every 60 seconds,
something like that.
They were flying. They had it built in like 2-3 weeks. Just nuts. I can't fathom that moving at that speed in general. But I mean, if you get a team of people who know what they're doing, they get it done well and get it done right. So that's something that most people aren't going to be able to get into to see at the moment. Just because of laws and rules and regulations. As it expands, or they get another rick house, or some laws go by, they may be able to bring more people into tours of that actual facility. It's really neat. I liked how they had it set up just in case there was a fire. Like, you don't typically get to. I've been in other ones. You don't get to see the floor where it drops out, where everything is, the booze goes into the bottom, so it doesn't get into the ground system and everything. And that's where it stays. I've been in other ones and maybe I'm just blind, probably am, but I did not quite see that in some of the other places I had been. And maybe it was just, grates and stuff that I didn't see that it was hidden. But it was I want to say it was bare bones, but I don't think it was anything that you needed to be more than that for what you're doing. And then they're also lending their space to several other distilleries in Wisconsin. J. Henry has like 500-600 barrels that are aging there till their barn gets done. So they're doing a lot of that. And for other people who Dog and Shrub too, they were aging and helping them out with some of their stuff at points. They're just trying to be the big brother of distilling in Wisconsin. It's kind of what I'm getting out of them. Not only are they trying to lead the way, they're also trying to help people along the way with them. I don't know. Can't say good enough stuff about them. I really enjoyed the time there. And then we went to grab some food afterwards, which was fun as well too. We took Kevin. I would say that was a real Wisconsin bar, Kevin. That
was probably the closest one. Yeah.
The guy in his Packers pajamas, that was pretty good.
He had a onesie. That was a pack. He had Packers onesies.
Yes.
In a Packer romper with shorts, dude. It was amazing. Mike, you've been there.
Piece onesie. It was awesome.
Oh, man. It was something.
It was. And then I think when we left there, hold on here. Then we left there after we got our meal, and we saw the Kahuna's laundromat.
Big Kahuna was with us in spirit. I got it.
He was out there, and apparently has laundromats throughout Wisconsin. With shuffleboard.
I think he opened with all the shuffleboard money, is what I think I heard.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to wash your shorts. Sorry about that. I don't know why I started choking laugh after that one at the same time. It didn't go too well. So
we stopped with the Kahuna, and then we, like we said, swung around to Dog and Shrub, where we saw Ed. Now this is going from probably the biggest distillery in Wisconsin to
The tallest distiller.
Yeah, Ed is a tall drink of water there.
Yes. So can I ask? So you all got to try all these different things from them, and you give your opinion of the rye. Comparatively, what would you say the readiness of the rye is compared to the other 9 things that you tried? Were they bottled, or were they some of them being worked on still?
I think they were all bottled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything was.
They were all
available.
bottled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a
So what
gin and the aged gin.
what would you guys say is the most ready whiskey that this young distillery has, or ready spirit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
If you're gonna go whiskey, I would have said the cast strength rye over
Yeah.
their original rye. But spirits there, I think it opens it up a bit more. I'm gonna yield my time at the moment.
I mean, they had some good gin, which I was not a big gin fan.
Gin
They had
was
2 very good
delicious.
gins.
Good.
Yeah. I think the gin was the one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The coffee vodka was cool, but that's not something I'd ever go to buy from someplace, I guess, either.
Yeah.
Right, but it.
The
I mean,
lemon
If you
cello.
like that kind of thing, it was good.
it was delicious.
Yeah.
The
limoncello.
yeah, the limoncello.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Limoncello.
That was good
That
too.
was good.
Yep.
That would have been the one we were talking about making a pie with it, right?
Yeah, or even like a limoncello cake, like that stuff out of everything was my favorite. Though it was a little on the sweet side, but in the profile of it was just delightful the whole way through. It was smooth and everything else. But again, I didn't expect that being our main thing we're going to taste there either.
No, but that
It was fun.
but like we said, very small comparatively. But I was gonna say that's their column. They do a lot of the stuff. And then this is
Did you get the gin still?
that's Ed's gin still. So kind of very small, doing several runs with it, but like I said, it's what comes out, and it's like with this, they're hitting across the board, and at least they want you to try everything, and Ed for sure, and I know the other people there at least want honest feedback with what they have. I was gonna say, which is neat. Now, when you go into their barrel house, which is also kind of like a big shed, kind of like Driftless Glenn, you only have like 8-10 barrels. So you see the different stages of kind of distilleries growth and where they're at and where they could be going. But I also, part of me wanted that, because I always, if I'm going on something, you're seeing more finished stuff. It's neat to see someone kind of trying to punch their way up, or make their name with something, starting to do something off. So, and you never know when one of those little places has hits a home run.
Well, what was it that he said he puts in his vodka that's different than everybody else? Was he the one using rye in there, or was he using malt in there? Does anybody remember?
I don't remember that.
Because I know his vodka had a much different flavor to it, and he was all proud of that. And I can't remember what it was he was using. I feel bad.
Yeah, the vodka had a really nice mouthfeel.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
But I can't remember if it was malt. I thought he said he used-
malty vodka, if you want to put it that way. I mean, it very viscous. I mean, it didn't, no taste because it was vodka, but good mouthfeel to the vodka.
It uses a wheat base.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Thank you. I could not remember.
Mm-hmm.
But it was weird to, have a vodka that actually had a nose to it other than, oh my God, it's straight alcohol. But
Mm-hmm.
No, I was just reading Shannon's comment.
oh God.
Come on.
Texan with a Packers onesie. I don't think so.
No, that was
You never know.
he was special. No, and I would say from the other people at Dog and Shrub were nice. I think Ed was probably the more outgoing of the people that I've seen from there. Maybe need a little bit of that too. Sometimes when you're trying to go grab people or at least get people's attention, it's neat to see. Like we said, like with Ben, it's neat to see people who who are interested in whiskey, and from where a lot of us met beforehand was more in the whiskey tribe, probably 4 years ago. And to see some people, work their way up and progressively get involved in the industry where they're actually doing the distilling and involved is neat. Someday, I'm sure I can get Ed. Someday maybe we can get him and Ben together in a show, talk about like this progression of how it happened. Just because I think that's a neat thing that not everyone gets into, because let's be honest, that low level of distilling starting off ain't glamorous. For the most part, that's the way you're getting beat on most of the time, but that's where you're putting in your dues before you're making everything happen. But it's just neat to see people hit their goals and aspirations with things, or at least kind of are in the first steps of getting there. So, okay, we were on for a long time. Now, I'm going to say free will of talking. There's several points I may bring up at this moment. I'm going to let you maybe bring up your point that your question was. Matt had questions as being a tour virgin. What were some things that you ran into that you thought were unique, Matt?
Well, I guess obviously being from the outside looking in, as you guys have talked about many times, and gosh, half of our vacation was talking about it, truth in labeling, truth in the story, truth in the advertising. And I guess there's a difference between the truth in the advertising and believing what you're selling, I guess is the other way I'd look at it. One of the distilleries we were at obviously is sourcing in their brandy, and they're aging it for a couple of months and relabeling it and trying to go out there as America's greatest brandy. I have a problem with that, but that's because I obviously didn't understand the ins and outs of it, because to me that seems like it's just French brandy made pretty. But so some of that stuff was kind of different. And then obviously, watching the different tours, the different people out there, and the different time frames they've said they've been with these places, and the different kind of stories and the different angles. We've seen some people that were doubling down on things. We saw people that backtracked and were like, oh, I wasn't aware of that. Obviously things are always changing. But all in all, I think I couldn't have gone on a better tour, like with better people, I guess. Obviously the different palates out there, you guys all have different ties to the different people in the industry. So kind of saw the good, the bad, and the ugly, not so much of the ugly, thank goodness. But then to see something from like 8 barrels up to 8,000 barrels was really cool to see. I don't think that you could probably go to that small of a geographical area and probably do that everywhere, at least in America, I wouldn't think. But I thought it was really cool to kind of see that part of Wisconsin, man. All in all, and it was great hanging out with Adina and Dave and meeting Kevin as well. Mike, miss you. Sounds like we probably would have got along as well, because I'm just as big of a pain in the butt, I've been told. But no, man, I thought it was a really great experience, and the different flavors and things like that. It was all in all just a really great experience.
Sorry, I just meant like there was some ins and outs of the industry that Matt was not aware of, that he got filled in on how labeling and some things work, and he was like, really? And I'm like, yes, but now that you know how it works, that's what matters. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? That's
and I'll be reading bottles before I go and pull the trigger on something in a higher price range most of the time, probably.
Sorry. Sorry. There's nothing wrong with checking labels. Dave and Adina, what were some good things that you guys came away with from the weekend, or what was the most interesting thing? Something that you thought was you might not have known beforehand.
Frankly, we weren't familiar with Dog and Shrub before.
Never heard of them.
And so that was that was really good.
Being there only 45 minutes from our house.
Yeah.
You have a nice cut up in a lot of places.
Yeah,
And-
so
they live in a really nice 45-minute radius. I'm just gonna say that. I have a feeling that your 45-minute radius is better than some other people's.
Yeah, exactly.
No, and Dog and Shrub is a nice destination. You'd go hang out, have a cocktail.
And the other places we'd been to before, but we love going back. Can't tell you how many times we've been to all of those.
Well, we were going to Bowlersheim many years ago before they were even a distillery. So, just a stop on on a trip to Wisconsin a lot. Dancing Goat, just every time we go there and we discover something new about the place, and I'm an engineer, so I walk through and marvel at how everything is just well thought out. And when you have Fred Swanson give your tour, I mean, Fred is just
the best,
the consummate tour guide,
Mm-hmm.
and covers everything. Always fun visiting Dancing Goat and just seeing what's going on there. Yeah.
I don't think it'll be neat to see them come out with their own stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that will be like the next, like, I don't want to say like telling stage, but it's like, that is the next thing for, even though they're a big distillery, they're going to be hitting, their bourbon comes out next year.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Some people are doing a barrel pick of that and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see the profiles they want to hit on, especially since they were doing the blue corn and they did 2 different single grain ryes. I forget what they were earlier today. So they were trying 2 different single grain versions of that. So 100% of this and 100% of that. So they are starting to play around. I think the ryes may be a little bit to do with the whole MGP thing. Maybe trying to find a different way to come up to that same profile again afterwards with I wouldn't want to pay 3 times the amount for a barrel, and I'm sure no one else there does. So you got to find your own way around it. So
I think the biggest takeaway for the weekend is, we've been to all these places except for Dog and Shrub, and going hanging out with friends at a distillery and, having a good taste and learning things and, hanging out with you guys is awesome.
We just missed the big kahuna.
Yeah.
There was a shuffleboard table at Hooker's Resort. You could have cleaned house there, Mike.
Yeah.
We could have used the big name.
They actually had your picture there with a signature and everything. I don't know how you got there, but
I swear I saw his picture on the wall right by the game.
I think it was like a news ad or something like that.
I saw his picture on the wall when we stopped by the post office.
You're muted.
You're muted, Mike, and it's probably good.
Yeah, he's responding quick there.
No, I say I figured you said truck stop bathroom. Near the coin machine.
I got all 3 of them. Kevin, what was your takeaway on the weekend? What's some interesting you found out when you came here, or some that stood
Well,
out?
I'd had a positive impression of Wisconsin whiskey to begin with. I've tried some stuff from Driftless Glenn and from Bowlersheim, J. Henry, and Dancing Goat before. Didn't really get the opportunity to dive into a lot of the different offerings they have until that weekend, and didn't know as much about them all either. The thing that really stood out with J. Henry, like I said, is just the authenticity of the grain. I'd love to see them have a still on that property, but I understand where they are and that they've put their money that they didn't spend on the still, that they've put that money to good use. And I think that the whiskey that they're making is really on point. And then at Wallersheim, that brandy was fantastic. That was the thing that stood out to me there. I've had the bottled and bond bourbon before, and I think it's terrific. So they're doing some really good stuff there, and it's a beautiful property. As far as Dancing Goat goes, Fonte doesn't have anything on Fred, and I love Fonte. I think Fonte's brilliant, but Fred's he's on par with Stephen Fonte.
Oh yeah,
and Fred was a remarkable tour guide, but he was also an incredible host. and just you couldn't have asked for a better experience with him. But I'm very excited to see what happens when Dancing Goat releases their own distillate. I appreciate the fact that, and I don't have the bottle in front of me, and I wish I did, but I think on the back of that limousine rye bottle, it says something to the effect of, there are a lot of places that source their rye from where we do, but we're doing some different things with it, and we hope you'll enjoy it. Is that, I can't read that.
Sorry for the backwards print on my camera here.
Well, it's frontwards here, but it's just kind of small. So at any rate, they I think they're pretty straightforward about the fact that is not their distillate, but they're not just taking it and jamming it in a bottle either.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are a lot of exciting things on the horizon for Wisconsin whiskey. And this is kind of a touch point to look back to, 2, 3, 5 years down the road and see how things have changed.
And this is just this is just a little kind of spattering of some on the southern end. There's Blue Ash Farms in this. That's a very interesting one in the southern Great Lakes over in Milwaukee. And I was going to say, and there's probably four.
Standard, Great Lakes.
I said, then you can start trickling north, and I can start throwing out stuff left to right as well too. So there's some neat stuff coming out. We always, Peter Naum at Northern Waters does some neat stuff. I have to, actually, the one even in Green Bay, they're coming out with their first bourbon here in a little bit, so I'm supposed to go find out what that tastes like. So there's some other distilleries and going north that have some exciting stuff going on too. But for where we were, I think it was just easier to focus in that area. It's I was going to say more of Wisconsin hot spot is more in that southern area where it can hit a few up in that region in time. So next year we got to see Mike. Kansas City's got a few, and you're close enough to St. Louis. Can we just take like a little swing dual trip? A little dual trip.
There's plenty around St. Louis.
So I don't know. I just happy just to actually get a chance to go into some of these places. I know I should have had more pictures of inside the actual rick house, like I should have, but like Kevin said, sometimes if you have a good host and someone you're talking to, I just get lost in talking to people.
Right.
And if you're doing on a tour, don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to be the one who's actually talking to the tour guide and talking to people and kind of creating that extra connection with it rather than just listening the whole time. Just those conversations are what kind of made the whole thing for me. It's trying to get that extra little bump and little knowledge and what's going on behind everything. So, but we've been on for an hour and 45 minutes, and Ledge Rock and Fond du Lac is pretty cool. I was going to say there, and La Crosse Distilling just worked out something with the Packers. Somehow they're like the Packers like official distillery or something. I had saw a blurb. I have to look more into it, and I was like, I don't know how you pulled it off, but if you did, kudos to you. That's a big deal. So, but I want to thank each and every one of you for coming on tonight and for actually coming out to coming out with me and all of us on our trip, because it's just fun going places with everybody.
Right.
It's cool to go with 2 people. Going with 5, 6 or more people makes it way more enjoyable. And everyone we met at the distilleries was fantastic. I was going to say we didn't meet someone who was off or rude or bad or anything. It was good people the whole way through. So that made it even better. So wow. Sorry, that 100 and some pictures is hard to find the bottom of the screen here. I'm going to page through some of it to find the end here. But next Monday night, join us for John Prine night. We'll be having drinks and hot dogs on the show. it'll be exciting. We'll be hanging out with Kevin and Drew. Then after that, our next big show is with Shannon Hood on the 24th. We'll be talking about Poorly Educated and her story in general, not just that, and the process of putting on a tasting, which I think glossed over a lot. Just on what all goes into that, just the thought process. Even if you're hosting it and you're the knowledgeable one, trying to hone that down, I think can be very difficult as to what you want to showcase. So just the mindset and going into a tasting is what we'll be talking about, because I think that's kind of neat, and it's tough to come up with what you want to in those situations. But we want to thank everyone in the chat as well for coming out tonight and sticking with us to the end of the show. Stop out at these distilleries. You will have a good time in one way or another. They're all worth a stop and worth spending some money at. And Wisconsin Old Fashions are underrated.
True.
That is true.
As long as they're made correctly.
Correct.
Right.
Well,
So, as long as the dean is making them, it's fine. So, all right, folks. Remember, it's not the size of the den that matters. It's the love of whiskey. Cheers, everyone out there.
Cheers.
peace.